This video discusses major plot spoilers for Fire Emblem Three Houses. It doesn't really discuss any for Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes though. Hooey.
Hello everybody, this is Jacob and it's time for another video of Jacob Discussing, where I discuss a video game which I have recently finished playing. This time it is Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes for the Nintendo Switch. Alright, I'm done with that. Yes, I finished a round of Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, that game that came out and everybody seems to have forgotten about already unless you're a hardcore Three Houses fan. Yeah, came out, I played it. How is it? Well, it's certainly a Warriors game, I'll tell you that much. But there's more to it, of course. There's always more to these crossover Warriors games, it seems. So, how is it anyway? This is actually a game that I was extremely excited for when it was first announced, because this is pretty specifically a game that I really wanted. A Fire Emblem Warriors game based in the Three Houses universe. Like, ever since I played, like, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which is pretty much the only Warriors game I played before this, I thought that, hey, the first Fire Emblem Warriors that came out around the Switch's launch, it really wasn't received all that well. I played it for a little bit, but I hadn't played Awakening or Fates at that point, so I had, like, no attachment to the characters that weren't in Smash, like Robin and Chrom and Corrin. So I didn't get too far in it, and I wasn't too crazy about it either. And it seems like it's a pretty big consensus that the first Fire Emblem Warriors wasn't a great game. So I thought that trying it again would be a good way to revive that, as well as, you know, lend some more love to the Three Houses gang. And then it got announced, and I was like, yes, I willed this into existence, you're welcome. The only difference is what I wanted, which may not have been a great idea, is I wanted a Warriors game that took place during the 5-year time skip that happens in the middle of Fire Emblem Three Houses. Because, you know, a lot of time passed between it during that time skip, and I think it would be cool to go over the battles that happened during that time, but considering how much changes depending on which house Byleth picks in Three Houses, I don't know how possible that would be. Plus, that would imply you don't play as Byleth for the whole game, and she wouldn't be in it. So that wouldn't go over well. Instead, what we are given is not a prequel, not a sequel, not a midquel like I wanted, but it is an alternate universe story. The game starts up, and you meet your new protagonist for this game, Shez. Shez is a member of a mercenary group that is currently in a battle against a rival mercenary group, Geralt's Mercenaries, led by the Ashen Demon, Byleth. Well, don't they sound familiar? For the record, for the remainder of this video, I'm going to refer to Shez and Byleth as the genders that I picked during the game. You can, of course, select male or female for both of them, as well as name them, and I picked male Shez and female Byleth, so I'm going to use those pronouns going forward. During the course of this, the fearsome Ashen Demon and her allies wipe out your entire mercenary group, during which some crazy powers are awoken from within Shez, but the Ashen Demon, Byleth, gets away. But now you're all alone, only being accompanied by this new voice in your head, this freaky-looking, they-them-ass individual who CJ describes as gender as fuck, named Arval. Does go by they-them, by the way. I appreciate that's cool. I appreciate that. Arval very much fills in the role of Sothis in this game as the mysterious voice in your head that accompanies you and vaguely guides you throughout the game. Arval does not have nearly the role that Sothis does for the majority of the game. I tended to forget they were there, honestly. This is where the story ends up splitting, because even though you lost in your battle against Geralt's Mercenaries, you still managed to drive them away to a different area. So, when the same events from the beginning of Three Houses happen, i.e. the three house leaders, Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri, being chased by bandits in the forest, they don't find Byleth and Geralt, they find Shez all alone in the woods. And from there, you save them, you're invited to the monastery, and you get to pick one of the three houses to join as a student. Not a teacher this time, but just as a student of the monastery. And I did end up choosing the Black Eagle's house to play as, because the main reason I wanted to play this game was because I wanted to zip around and be really fast and stab dudes as Petra. So I chose the Black Eagle house. And even though there are those 3 routes and some branching in at least this one, I don't know how many full routes there are, I only did play through this one. This game is a lot longer than I was expecting it to be. Again, like I said, my only frame of reference is Age of Calamity, which I beat in about 20 hours or so. So that was even then, I thought that game was a little bit longer than I was expecting too. This one route of 3 hopes took me over 40 hours. That a lot of that may be because of the Fire Emblem stuff in it, like the camp and the supports and all of that, which I will be getting into. It's still, goddamn, this game has content. It is a long game, and if you're familiar with how 3 Houses kind of padded out its time, then 3 Hopes will seem very familiar to you. Speaking of familiar, basically the entire first 4 or 5 chapters of the game is essentially the first half of Fire Emblem 3 Houses sped up really fast. Like, there's some things that are not there, like there is no Flame Emperor, so that plot line isn't there, but things like Tomas being revealed as Solon and Monica being found, and then Edelgard, of course, eventually starting the war, just zooms by, all of it really fast, and then it slows down, and the rest of the 80% of the game takes place after a 2-year time skip. So the pacing was really weird, like at first. Like the intro felt like they had to fit a lot in because they needed to make you at least a little bit familiar with the world before they jumped into the war. But it just felt really jarring, especially since after this, the game slows down a lot in terms of plot. I mean, plenty of plot points happen, of course, but weirdly enough, this game is really political. Not like in the sense that you would usually call a game political, like, oh, it's got a political message to it. No, I mean, literally the game focuses on politics a lot. A lot of the story beats and a lot of the reasons that you fight are based on nobility and noble alignments, and, oh, this noble is aligning with this side now, but these nobles betrayed us so that they're aligning with them. But these nobles betrayed their side and joined the other side, but we may be able to convince them to join our side if we fight at this place, and it's kinda boring. It's not a terribly exciting plot, which I guess is okay, because I went into I wasn't going into this thinking that this game's story was going to be as good as 3 Houses. 3 Houses has flaws, but it is still a really well-told story along all 3 routes. Particularly, I think Crimson Flower, the Black Eagles route where you join Edelgard, is a really good story to tell overall, despite it having several holes that are left unfilled at the end of the game. And I'm sad to say, without spoiling anything, yes, this ending does too. I don't know why this series refuses to give Edelgard closure, ever. It's very sad. Another interesting bit regarding this game's story, specifically its characters, is that you do get to meet several characters from 3 Houses that were only mentioned by name, but never shown on camera. For example, Monica is not Kranya this time. She does not betray you and kill your dad. Yeah, I meant that spoiler warning at the beginning. She does not turn out to be Kranya and stab Geralt, of course. It's just Monica this time. So you get to hang out with Monica the rest of the game, even though she was literally not in 3 Houses at all, despite her appearance being there. Even though I did play the Black Eagles route, you of course see the other characters throughout as well, and through this, in a few cutscenes, you meet Holst, who is Hilda's brother. Seems like a fine chap. Also, voiced by Sungwon Cho, Pro ZD. Good work on that. Great casting. I will forgive him for putting Petra in F tier when he was ranking Fire Emblem 3 Houses. So I bought the game anyway, and I hope the royalties go to him. I'm kidding. It's so stupid. He does great. He's a very talented man. Also, another character I think is a bit of a missed opportunity. You get to meet one Count Varley, a.k.a. Bernadetta's father, a.k.a. despite him not being in Three Houses at all, probably one of the most reviled people in the Three Houses community, because he is an abusive, evil, fucked up individual who was a piece of shit to Bernadetta, who everyone loves. I'm going to talk about Count Varley a little bit. He does show up on screen. He gets a design. He's just got this coiffed purple hair and a purple beard. Beard or mustache? I think it's a full beard. Hold on. Yeah, it's a mustache beard combo. Whatever. He's essentially just a more selfish version of Bernadetta. He likes to hold himself in safe places, away from any danger, and he tends to not care so much about the lives of others in his pursuit of safety. So he's just kind of an assholier Bernadetta, but I really think this was a missed opportunity. Like, there is a lot of vitriol in this community for Count Varley, and I feel like this would have been really good catharsis for anybody who played Three Houses and learned about Bernadetta's backstory to make him a villain, because there are some nobles that, you know, that are related to the main characters that end up being villains in this story. I feel like Count Varley very well could have been one of those. And very later in the game, where your goal is to kind of protect him, because he is, I don't think you're meant to like him, but he's still an ally, and there's a mission very late in the game where you have to protect him so he can escape, because, you know, he's Count Varley. If you use Bernadetta on that, they do have a quick line of dialogue with each other, and they're just, they act like awkward old friends that had a breakup, and not a man and his daughter, the man which tied her to a chair for hours on end, forced her to act like a good wife so that he could sell her off to a noble family, or that had a young boy beaten in the streets because he was a commoner that dared to, you know, talk with his noble daughter. They really could have made Count Varley a lot more fucked up and evil in this game, and then you could kill him, perhaps as Bernadetta, but no. It's like they seem to just bury the hatchet a little bit, which was really frustrating. That was a tangent. Holy shit. Sorry. But yeah, there's some characters in that are only mentioned in Three Houses that have a lot bigger roles in this game. Isn't that neat? So the gameplay. It's a Warriors game. You got your 2 buttons, you got your combos, you got your swaths of enemies that you just fucking annihilate wave after wave of. You got your, you know, directing people to different strongholds and having them take advantage of certain weaknesses and all of that. It's, you know, it's just at its core, it's as fun as Age of Calamity is at its core. That was my first Warriors game, and it made me excited to play other ones. It's still a fun time when you're playing it. There are, of course, Fire Emblem influences that ruminate throughout the gameplay. I believe the weapon triangle, the rock, paper, scissors formula that the majority of the series had until Fire Emblem Echoes got rid of it. I believe that's back. There is, at the very least, certain weapons that are good against others, and etc. I don't know if it's the exact weapon triangle. I don't have that memorized, but you'll get the general idea. If you select a character, and then you see another main general, and your weapon is good against them, you'll see a little upward arrow. If it's bad against them, you'll see a downward arrow, and defeating them would be more difficult. I believe that's how it worked in Fire Emblem Warriors, the original, as well. So that would be familiar. Now, naturally, every single student character, as well as a number of other additional characters, are playable in this game, which, in hindsight, seemed obvious, and I thought that would be the case, but it seemed surprising to a lot of people that, yeah, you get to play as the entire cast. And naturally, they're not going to make 25 plus unique characters in this game, especially when in their game of origin, they're not all exactly unique. So obviously they're not going to do that. This game has a class system, so you can assign certain students to basically whatever class you want. There's very limited requirements in order to actually reach that class. You can make them any beginner class you want, and at that point they upgrade to become stronger and different or more unique classes as you play the game and upgrade them. I'd say this generally works out. This is probably the best way they could have done it, but it's really flawed, and there are a few reasons why it is. First off, a lot of upgrades tend to not play differently from each other. The example I could give is, going back to Petra, who I was very excited to play as because, she's the assassin type character by default, and I wanted to zip around and fuck dudes up as her. So you start as just a standard sword class, and then it kind of branches off, and you can pick which sword, mastery you want her to do. I chose the Thief. After the Thief, there are 2 more upgrades. You make her an assassin, and then you finally master that class, and she becomes a trickster class. The Thief, the Assassin, and the Trickster all have the exact same moveset. The only difference is you get some better stats by playing the more advanced classes, and I believe they also learn different combat arts, which are just essentially special moves that you can use by holding the R button and pressing an attack button. I didn't want all of them to be unique. I feel like that would be an unreasonable thing to request, but feeling the upgrades from one class to another when they play so similarly is really minuscule. You don't feel very different because, all of the attacks are exactly the same. It's essentially the same class, just a little bit stronger. And, you scale up basically with the enemies throughout the game, so that you scale up in strength along with them, so you never really feel significantly stronger as you upgrade your classes. Another problem is, well, first off is something really cool, and that is the fact that certain characters as their preferred class have special moves, if you will. When you fill up your bar, you press the A button, and then they do a super strong, cool animation attack that wrecks a whole bunch of dudes all at once. Characters that, if you follow their, general archetype that you would expect them as, they will have one of these. And that's great. It's really fun to find them all and use them. The problem is that along the path of the, general expected class structure for each of these characters, which again, you can pick whatever one you want, but they kind of encourage you to try specific classes as specific characters. Along that path, they sometimes lose those special A moves, which in turn makes them less unique. One example is Shez. Shez, he has his own unique class that you get at one point. It's an intermediate class, I believe. So he has these dual-wield swords, and it's only unique to him. This class, only Shez can use it. So the entire moveset is unique to him. Great. The only problem is there is a stronger version of that class, but it's a master class, which is 2 ranks above that. So if you want Shez to become the master class version of himself, then you need to temporarily make him just a regular ass swords master, which is not unique to him. He loses all of his unique moves, and he just becomes just a regular unit until you master that class, which you need to do by either training at camp, which I'll get into, or just playing the game, playing missions. And then you can upgrade him back to his new, stronger version of his unique class. That's stupid. I want to play as Shez because of his unique class that only he can use, so I feel like I'm playing a whole new character when I'm using him. I don't want to just go to another character that 3 others are going to pass through on the way to their master class. It's kind of silly. Worse examples even are Ferdinand and Bernadetta. Now they don't have their own class, naturally. They're just standard, Bernadetta is a bow user, Ferdinand is a horse knight, by default. I need to stress, you can make them whatever you want, but by default, they're that. They both, throughout most of their lives, have their own special A move. Ferdinand, swings his spear at a bunch of dudes, and during the big beats of his attacks, he goes, "I am Ferdinand von Ire!" Because, memes. He says that a lot throughout this game. And then Bernadetta, I love hers. When she's a foot-bound bow knight, when she's just an archer or a sniper, her special move is flailing her arms around saying, "I can't do this!" and then firing arrows every which way and curling up into a ball. And then just one last arrow comes down and explodes. I love that animation too. I hope you do, because if you want them to be their master classes, they will lose those special attacks. If you want... Okay, so eventually you can make Ferdinand a Holy Knight or a Dark Knight. Dark Knight doesn't make much sense for Ferdinand's character, so I made him a Holy Knight. And then he just loses that special A move. And then Bernadetta becomes a Bow Knight, which means she gets a horse. She grows a horse from under her feet. And now that animation won't work anymore because that requires her to be on her feet to use. So she loses that too. Sure, with a horse knight you could, like, dismount your horse, but I never found a reason to do that gameplay-wise unless I just wanted to use Bernadetta's special animation attack. So characters tend to just lose what makes them unique, which is stupid. Like, at the very least, structure these classes in ways that the things that make these characters reasons why you would want to use specifically them, besides their, normal just like personalities or class that you've chosen to play with them as, give me a reason to specifically want to play as Ferdinand or Bernadetta, and let me keep that throughout the whole game. It's just silly, and it feels like more thought could have been put into that. Though eventually you will feel rewarded for upgrading your class all the way up, such as with Hubert, because Hubert, the final class you make him, I believe the Dark Bishop. No, the Dark Bishop is not unique to Hubert, but he does, for his master class, get a special move that you did not have earlier. He says, "Behold your undoing!" and then rains down some dark magic. He does an evil laugh and snaps his fingers and kill a bunch of people. Very good. At the very least, I think that's how it should have worked. Like, have everybody be generic for a while, and then once you fully upgrade them, give them that special A move then, so that you'll feel even more rewarded for keeping at it for that long. Dorothea is also the same way. If you make her a Gremory class, then she has this special move where she uses her voice, because she is a singer, to kill a bunch of dudes as well. Very good. Really wish that was just how it worked, instead of you, like, hopping back and forth between unique and not unique. Okay, so that's the general, like, actual combat. Of course, with just like Three Houses, Three Hopes does not end there. A lot of the time you're going to be spending wandering around the campsite, which is the replacement for the monastery in this game. You can wander around, you can talk to your teammates and other people in the camp. Massive disappointment, though, these lines are not fully voiced. Which really did make me less incentivized to talk to everybody. It was really impressive, and perhaps unnecessary, but impressive that almost every single piece of dialogue in the entirety of Fire Emblem Three Houses was voiced, and it is pretty disappointing that that's not the same way in this game. Most of the cutscenes are voiced, all of the dialogue during the fights are voiced, but the dialogue at camp is not voiced, which is lame. But there's plenty you can also do. Throughout the game, you can upgrade your camp, like your marketplace, your training grounds, your kitchen, all of that. You can upgrade it using materials that you get throughout the game, as well as do the materials master, who will, gather materials for you as you fight, and then you can collect them and use them to upgrade your camp and stuff like that. There is a lot to do at camp that affects you in combat. You can upgrade your strategy master facility so that you can, increase the number of healing items you can use, their effectiveness, increase the weapon durability so that you can use more combat arts during a single fight, increase the number of special moves that they can hoard. That's the best word I can think of. Like, you can give everybody 3 special bars so that if you let it build long enough, you could just unleash 3 special moves back to back to back on a strong boss or something. And that feels very good once you get that upgrade for everybody. And naturally, there is also support stuff that you can do. Fire Emblem, as always, you build relationships with your units, and then once you've built your relationship high enough, sometimes, not all the time in this game, but sometimes you will see a special cutscene with the 2 characters interacting with each other in some way. Now, to achieve the support, of course, you can just play with the characters together in a fight. You can have dinner with a pair of your comrades, which will increase the support with the 2 of them, as well as both of them with yourself, with Shez. You can do chores with 2 of your units, which again, increase the relationship between them and Shez as well. Or, new to this game, you can go on an expedition with them. This replaces the tea time from Three Houses, and I think that it is a massive improvement from the tea time in Three Houses as well. In Three Houses, you would ask your student out for tea, and then you would pick 3 conversation topics that they may be down for, and they will react positively or negatively. They will say something. You will have to choose the best response to that, and if you do, then your relationship with them will go up dramatically. That's pretty much it. With expeditions, you have a lot more to do. First, you can pick a place for you and your comrade of choice to go. At first, you only have one. You can go to the fields, but you unlock up to 3 more locations that you can go to. And then once you're there, a special, scenario might happen. For example, if you go to the forest with Petra, there could be a scenario where you two see a squirrel, and you can choose to either watch the squirrel or hunt the squirrel. If you know Petra, she a hunter, so the best option is to pick to hunt the squirrel. And then your relationship goes up a little bit more if you choose that. Afterwards, and this is where the big improvement happens, you have 2 options to interact with them once you sit down and rest at the area. You can either talk to them, where it's kind of like the tea time in the first game. They'll just say something. They'll just say whatever's on their mind, and you need to pick whichever option you think best fits their character and what they would like to hear. Or, and I love this, you can ask them one of a set number of questions. You can ask them what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what their preferred fighting style is. You can ask them about their family life. You can ask them about their friends. You can ask them what they think of you. And then, you get a little bit of character development there that you didn't really get in 3 Houses, or you got randomly in 3 Houses, or you only got in the, support cutscenes in 3 Houses. I really love the expedition system. It's such a big improvement over how it is in 3 Houses. Plus, once you max out your support level with somebody, then you would think, there's no real benefit to going on an expedition with them because these only exist to increase your support. But, there is. If you really like the character and you go out on a support with them after you've maxed out your support with them, then they have new dialogue where they are more excited to go out with you. So you get that nice feeling of this character you really like, really enjoying spending time with you. Because, once you spend enough time together, they're not going to be like, I don't know about that. We got work to do, all that, but I guess I'll go. They're going to be like, oh shit, Shez wants to go to the lake? Hell yes. Let's go to the lake, Shez. That'd be sick as hell, my dude. I don't know if they said it like that. Some character might. I don't know. My only complaint with this system is that there doesn't feel like there's enough different stuff to do. Especially later in the game. Later in the game, you get a lot of activity points. Like, at the final chapter, I had 8 activity points right at the very end when I'd already maxed out with my support with everybody I care to. So I was just like, fuck it. I don't know. I don't want to spend all this time, going to dinner, doing chores, and going on a bunch of expeditions 8 times. And, when you complete missions throughout the chapter on your way to the story mission, you tend to get more activity points on top of that. And there's just not enough to do to keep you engaged for all of those activity points. So naturally, you're going to let some go to waste. That's most of what I wanted to say about the camp. I said I would bring this up, so I'm going to real quick. There's also a training ground where you can go to help your units master their classes outside of battle, as well as increase support levels, because they train in pairs. Depending on which pair you pick and what class they are, they may, level up their class a little bit sooner, and they may also increase their support with each other. And you can level this up so that you can do more stuff and level up faster. And there's also just like a pay for level system. Like you can spend gold to level up your unit if they're like really under leveled, which is not as overpowered as you'd think. You get a lot of money, so you can do this easily. So you would think it would just be ridiculous, but you can't level anybody up higher than your highest leveled unit. So it's really nice if you wanted to be like, this character, I really like them, but I've hardly used them at all, and I don't want to level them all the way up from their low level. You could just use in-game gold to, level them all the way up to about standard with everybody else, and then you can use them right off the bat. It's very convenient. I'm kind of hopping all over the place, but back on the topic of support, there is no romance option in this game. You cannot have Shez marry anybody, which is kind of disappointing. The closest thing you have is this item you get later in the game called a Merc Whistle. You only get one of them per playthrough, and you can give them to one specific unit. This is the closest thing you have to a marriage option. You can give it to your favorite character. They'll have like one line of dialogue in response to that, and then the benefit is you get to use their special ability, which each character does have a unique special ability that they use during combat. I forgot to mention that. But that allows Shez to use whatever character special ability you give the Merc Whistle to, which at that point, you're more picking it for strategic reasons rather than what character you like the most, because not all special abilities are built equal. Some feel very insignificant compared to others. Like Hubert, for example. His special ability is that as he attacks people, they grow these purple spikes, and if you press R, the right trigger, those spikes explode, and that's very useful. So you're gonna be very tempted to just give it to the character whose special ability you like the most, rather than which character you like the most. Which, I mean, fair enough. This is not literally a romance option, but it's an equivalent. And I just want to have Shez smooch somebody. Dang it, I like Shez. And on the topic of that, let's talk about characterization, because I have a lot to say about the characterization in this game. And it's a mixed bag. It is a very, very, very mixed bag. And probably leads me into my biggest complaint with Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Now, like I think I said this earlier, I was not expecting this story to be on the same level as Fire Emblem 3 Houses, because that's a main RPG game, and this is a silly Warriors game. I'm not sure that Warriors games are known for their story. But, again, my one experience with it prior was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I thought that game's story and writing were quite good. I was engaged throughout it, and I really liked what they did with the characters. I really liked, Impa and Zelda and Link. I mean, Link was Link, but, all the characters were characterized pretty well. This game, the characters I'm familiar with aren't always portrayed in the best light. First of all, the game really expects you to have already played 3 Houses. Not for a plot reason. Like I said, this is an alternate universe, and the plot itself is completely separate from that of 3 Houses. But because of how quick it's paced at the beginning, they don't really give you a lot of time to grow attached to these characters, and a lot of really massive plot points and reasons why characters are the way they are not really focused on at all. So if you're just hopping into this game, you're gonna wonder why you should give a fuck about a lot of these characters. As a whole, their personalities don't shine through as much as they do in 3 Houses, which again is kind of to be expected. This game mostly exists for fan service for 3 Houses fans, but 3 Houses fans like the 3 Houses characters. So the fact that they're not presented in their strongest light is kind of lame. Some characters are great. Some characters are about as good, if not better, than how they're presented in 3 Houses. Edelgard is still awesome. I really like how she's a little bit more strong-armed in this game, but she also more openly shows her weaknesses to her troops. Hubert, I think, is fantastic. He was already perhaps the best written character in 3 Houses. It's tied between him and Dedue, but since I only played the Black Eagles route, I didn't really see Dedue so much in this game. But Hubert, he's got a little bit more of a boisterous personality, a little bit. He's very intimidating and, reserved in 3 Houses, but in 3 Hopes, he's a little bit more sarcastic in an intimidating way. He's not cracking jokes, but usually when he's on to somebody who may not be telling the full truth, he's going to play along in a very interesting way. He's going to talk sarcastically to you until you get the idea that, yeah, I know what you're doing. You fucking silly goose. I don't know if he'd call anyone a silly goose, but, I'm adding this in post because I forgot to mention it. Ferdinand was also written very well, which is good for a few reasons. First, I actually didn't really like Ferdinand in 3 Houses that much. I thought he was kind of a fucking dweeb, but I think he's a lot better in this game. I like him a lot more. And of course, this, I believe, is going to be Billy Kamitz's final credit that he did before he sadly passed away earlier this year from cancer. So I'm glad he went out on a high note in portraying Ferdinand so well. Another couple of characters who are done really well are, the Avatar characters, Shez and Byleth. Shez is really likable, and unlike Byleth in 3 Houses, Shez is fully voiced, which does wonders for how likable they are as a protagonist. I never really had a problem with how quiet Byleth was in Three Houses until I played Three Hopes, because Shez has a very strong personality. He's very carefree, but very serious as well. I mean, he's not super special. He is very much a protagonist. He's not this force of personality, but he's likable. He's nice to people. You kind of like to see his relationships build. His supports with everyone tend to be pretty good. Shez is great. I liked him a lot. Byleth as well. They did Byleth great in this game. I think, again, a massive improvement over how she was portrayed in Three Houses. Part of that is because she is also fully voiced. She speaks a lot in this game because she's not the avatar. She's essentially a villain of this game because most of the time you're going, like, Shez wants revenge on Byleth for slaying his mercenary gang. So she is a whole ass character. And one of the biggest problems with Byleth in Three Houses was her reputation and the fact that you never really see it. Byleth apparently had this reputation, this nickname, the Ashen Demon, as this, incredibly strong mercenary warrior that ravaged her opponents and showed no emotion while she did it. And you never saw that. I feel like no one was like, oh shit, the professor, she's kind of fucked up, right? Why doesn't she move her face when she fights? That's scary. They're like, oh, Professor, we won the fight. Great job. Wow. But in this game, Byleth is scary. You see the Ashen Demon in Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes in ways that you never saw in Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Byleth rules in this game. It makes her cooler. It makes her more intimidating. And I'm going to be real, it makes her hotter too. I love how they did Byleth in this game. So that's a lot of my positives for the characterization. Some are kind of in the middle. And they're not as interesting to talk about. Some are just like, I prefer how they were written in Three Houses. One example, I guess the biggest example I can give is Linhardt. Linhardt, he's an astute dude, very studious, only on things that really interest him, but also he has his thing that he likes to nap. He is a sleepy widow boy. And he did say that a lot in Three Houses, of course. But I feel like they really flanderized his love of sleep a lot in Three Hopes in ways that got really annoying. For example, let's say you want to go on an expedition with Linhardt. You want to go on a horse ride out to the lake with Linhardt. When you start the cutscene, he'll be like, do you mind if I curl up and nap once we get to the place that we're going? And then you select where you want to go. And then he'll say, can't we have a nap instead? And then you get there and he'll say, this seems like a great place to take a nap. Like, oh my God, I get it. You're fucking tired. I'm tired now. Jesus Christ. Maybe that was your point. Your point was to make me fucking tired of you. I mean, it kind of is. That would actually track with Linhardt, but still. It got irritating. It got irritating. Thankfully, though, Linhardt's supports tend to be good. His character shines through a lot in other ways when it's not just... It's mostly the generic lines. Like, everybody's got their generic lines when you go on an expedition with them or when they're capturing a stronghold or anything like that. That's where their, like, tropes really push their way into your eyes, into your face. And, that's natural. You gotta make their personalities shown in these, like, singular lines of dialogue. It still got on my nerves, especially with characters like Linhardt. But then, there are a few characters who I think have been absolutely fucking nuked, annihilated, shredded to pieces in ways that I've never seen before. I guess that makes me privileged because I know there's some, like, beloved characters from, like, tons of media that have been absolutely fucking assassinated by a particular entry. But there's two in particular, at least in the Black Eagles route. God, I hope there's not many more. I went from liking to loving them in Three Houses to fucking hating when they're on screen in this game. First, and perhaps the worst offender, poor old Bernadetta. So Bernadetta, she is a introverted, reclusive person. She likes to stay in her room. She is very anxious. She doesn't like to talk to people. She's a little bit paranoid. This is how she was in Three Houses. If you're intimidating or if you come on too strong, she'll think she'll worry about her safety a little bit. And this all comes from, again, as I mentioned a lot earlier, her trauma from her asshole father. She's a little distrustful and she likes to be alone. In Three Hopes, she is an insane, delusionally paranoid laughingstock. She is made, I really feel like the game wants you to laugh at her and how anxious she is at every single interaction she has. She will just, for no discernible reason, in far stronger ways than in Three Houses, just be terrified of you, terrified of Shez, terrified of whoever she has supports with. And it's everyone. Everyone. She has none of the nuance and none of the depth that she had in Three Houses. I could not stand watching Bernadetta's supports in this game. I did, every time I would get one, I'd be like, oh God, I have to watch a fucking Bernadetta support now. Do I really want to do this? And sometimes it'll be good. Sometimes she'll calm the fuck down a little bit. They'll stop being like, hey, look at the crazy lady, be afraid of everything. Isn't that fucking amusing? And she'll have like a normal talk with somebody. But most of the time she won't. She'll just find ways to be afraid of people in completely unnatural, jarring ways. Like there's this one support she has with Shez where the beginning is very funny. I actually posted it out of context on Twitter. I'll show it now. Amusing. That support leads up to Bernadetta telling a tale about Anna, the shopkeeper lady. How she is she's on campus like she always is, regularly. And then she was talking to Bernadetta, trying to sell her something, and then she just starts screaming about how she's in danger. Just out of fucking nowhere. Again, like on the surface, this tracks, but if you compare it to how she's written in Three Houses, she's a lot more charming and a lot less annoying and a lot more relatable. She's not a cartoon of an anxious person in Three Houses like she is in Three Hopes. In Three Hopes, yeah, that's it. She's a cartoon, and I couldn't stand it. And it sucks because I fucking love Bernadetta in Three Houses, but Three Hopes really dampened my appreciation for her in a way that I hope I can reverse. I just hope that I can maybe, if I go back and play Three Houses, because I still haven't played Silver Snow, and Bernadetta features in that. Maybe that will make me love her again. But as of right now, Jesus Christ, I just don't want to look at her anymore. Another cartoon, and the other character that I hate what they did to, is Kaspar. Kaspar, kind of rash, very ready to prove himself because his brother is set to inherit his family's fortune and name while he's not. In Three Hopes, he's just an idiot. He's just the stupid guy. He screams all the time, which, he screamed a lot in Three Houses, but he just yells every single line. And this game's audio mixing is very compressed, so it just makes it that much more obvious that he is just screaming everything. He talks much more cartoonishly. Like, yeah, we're gonna go fight him up. We're gonna smash him in the face. He talks like fucking Sonic the Hedgehog. And, every now and again, they just drop the whole, he doesn't know what big words mean. Okay, Kaspar was not bright in Three Houses. He wasn't a super book smart person. He wasn't a fucking imbecile. He had at least average intelligence amongst everyone else. I don't know why they wanted to make him a fucking moron in this game. They just made him a fucking fool. Again, to laugh at. Laugh at the stupid man. And one particular moment really frustrated me. Let's compare some supports between two like characters in Three Houses versus Three Hopes. In Three Houses with Petra and Kaspar. Kaspar brings up, kind of unprompted, like, hey, Petra, are we cool? You know why I'm asking, right? Because my father, Count Bergles, who is in this game, by the way, killed your father, the King of Brigid. Are we cool? I'm worried that we can't be friends because of this. And Petra's like, yeah. In the end, she's like, yeah, we're cool. You didn't kill my father. We are friends. I am in liking with you. And I was great. it was, it felt a little unnatural that Kaspar would just kind of bring that up out of the blue, but, it's something that's bothering him, and he's clearly, sensitive to this topic. In this game, like I said, Count Bergley's, Kaspar's father, is in the game. So in Petra and Kaspar's support, he's having a conversation with his father, just about like, oh, keep on training, son. You're doing your dad proud or whatever. And he's like, yeah, Dad, I don't know what 5-syllable words mean. I'm going to go kick some ass for you. And then Petra comes up after Count Bergley's leaves. She looks obviously irritated. Kaspar is like, oh, hey, Petra. Oh, yeah, what's wrong? You want me to get you some water? Maybe some soup? Is there anything I could do for you? You look pretty upset. Why could you possibly be upset? I'm fine, Kaspar. Oh, really? You don't look so fine. What's wrong? I mean, you can talk to your old buddy Kaspar. It's no big deal. Is anything I could get you? Anything I could do? No, Kaspar. I'm fine, she says through gritted teeth. All right, bye. Dude. That is just incorrect writing. That is wrong. I mean, maybe he's in a better mood because his dad is there. Kaspar and Count Bergley's have a good relationship with each other, but he's just completely unaware of this thing that in the other game, this is not a new character. This is the same character in the other game he was aware of. She's a little upset to see her father's murderer in camp. You would know this if you were written as well as you were in Three Houses. You fucking dipshit. Those were the two characters I found the most annoying. I didn't love Monica either. She's just the world's biggest Edelgard simp. But who doesn't simp for Edelgard? So I can't fault her that much for that. Her and Edelgard supports are very concerning, though. Very concerning. But Monica's not the worst. And everyone else is really just average. Like, this game's writing and story are not great. It did not keep me super engaged. The whole thing is very slow-paced. Again, super political. Like I said, like, an hour ago. I just didn't love the writing, in general. I feel like the worst parts of it really outshined the best parts of it, sadly. Plus, goddammit, the voice lines are too long. What I mean by that is the generic voice lines. In Fire Emblem Three Houses, where you would select a unit to choose to move, and then they'd say something like, I'm on it, or here we go, or ready to fight. It's some quick voice line like that. And then they would only say it once per fight, unless you use Divine Pulse, rewound, then they would all reset, which honestly feels like an oversight. I doubt that was intentional. Maybe it was. I don't know. But regardless, it's not a big deal. They're really quick lines. You don't hear them that much, and they don't get annoying at all. In Three Hopes, though, when you go to the map and direct your unit to go to a particular place, every time you select them, they say their quote. Every single time. And they are long! They are long! So they just burn themselves into your fucking mind eventually. Like, every time you select Edelgard, she's like, here I go! No mistakes! Every time you select Ferdinand, it's not a question of can, only a matter of will. There's one more. There was one more that fucking really got annoying too. Let me think. Oh yeah. How could I forget? Fucking Kaspar. Maybe this is another reason I couldn't stand Kaspar in this game. Every single time you select him on the map, he goes, so, what should I be doing again? Every time. At least make the lines shorter if you're gonna make them say it every time you pick them on the map. God damn it. I've been really negative for the last bunch of this video, but I did enjoy the game overall. It's still a Warriors game. It's fun on its own, and there's a lot of good fan service for picking your favorite Fire Emblem Three Houses character and just wrecking shit with them. And with all of that in mind, can I recommend Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes to people who are not already fans of Fire Emblem Three Houses? Absolutely not. No way. Unless you are an absolute Muso freak who needs to play every Warriors game, which I'm sure those people are out there. No, if you are not already a fan of Fire Emblem Three Houses, there is really nothing for you in this game. Like I said, the game really expects you to already give a shit about these characters, already know essentially the first half of the story of Fire Emblem Three Houses, so that you can understand why the first 4 chapters move so fast. And of course, the main appeal of this game, at least for me, is to pick your favorite Fire Emblem Three Houses characters and directly control them in a way you couldn't in their original game. Just like how the appeal of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity was, for me, to pick characters other than Link to wreck shit as them as well, because I really liked those characters and I wanted to play as them. That's why I played Age of Calamity, and that's one of the best parts about it. The difference is, I think Age of Calamity's story stands pretty well on its own. I'd say, if I asked the same question, would I recommend Age of Calamity to somebody who wasn't already a fan of Breath of the Wild? I would say yes. I think that story lends itself well enough on its own, and the characters are fleshed out enough that you get to enjoy them a bit more. In this game, the characters are not fleshed out as well, and when they try to flesh it out, it is just usually weaker versions of their writing from their source game. So I recommend, if Fire Emblem Three Houses interests you, I really recommend playing that. That game is fantastic, and if you enjoyed that game and its characters and you have a favorite, it's like, oh, I wish I could just wreck some shit as fucking Hubert, or as Ferdinand, or Lawrence, because I'm weird, then yeah, pick up Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes. Otherwise, only do so if you're like a massive Warriors nerd. Ooh, that took my breath away. I got mad there. I got mad there a few times. Oh, Bernadetta and Kaspar, you poor souls, you deserve better. Thank you for watching. This was a long one. There's a lot. I had a lot to say about this game. Thank you for watching. I would have played more routes of this game if Xenoblade Chronicles 3 wasn't happening in a week, but it is. So that will be a game you can expect a video on. I've been thinking about doing a video about the whole Xenoblade Chronicles franchise. Just kind of a ramble about that, even though I haven't beaten any of those games recently. Keep an eye out for that. I think I might do that. And Final Fantasy IX is progressing swimmingly. Having a great time with that game. Definitely expect a video on that when I'm done with it. Alright, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you around. Justice for Bernadetta. Justice for Kaspar.